Hi, and welcome to Project OZTOG. This week we have a jam-packed schedule, so let's get cracking and get into the episode. Quick introduction, I'm Rob.
And I'm Chris. Welcome back to the podcast.
And we're lucky to be joined this week by Zach. Zach, do you want to give us a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi guys, my name is Zach. I'm a photographer, filmmaker based in Sydney, Australia. I've run a small production company called Ascend Studios. It's ascendstudios.com.au. So we do photography and filmmaking for different type of clients, corporate, commercial, brands. Also we still do a bit of weddings and a bunch of different stuff. So you just check out the website ascendstudios.com.au to see the work that we do, and my Instagram is Zach Alves. The boys will add my tag.
I'll put it down the bottom of the YouTube video and on the podcast information as well, guys.
Wait.
Thanks, Zach. Well, let's get into the first topic, guys. So the first topic this week is about how we consume images and how it continues to change. So you're looking at things like print versus digital images versus social media. And has this changed the value of photography? And if so, where's it going to in the future?
Yeah, I think this is quite a highly topic because, we've come such a long way going from a sort of time where we used to print everything all the way through to now where we take 1,000 images and upload one of them. So I think it's always sort of great to talk about this and get everyone's opinion. Zach, what are your thoughts on this?
No, I don't think it's got less value now just because we see it on screen on social media. It's just, social media, internet wasn't available back in the day. So people are images on books, on posters, frames. But like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, if social media was there, people would be using it. They'll be posting their works on Instagram, website, and printing it. So I think it's just a different generation now. And
I mean, back in the day, they had art galleries and sort of photo galleries and that sort of thing, didn't they? So I think it's kind of, you got a point where people are still consuming those images. They're not consuming it in a more traditional way, I think. What were you going to say, Rob?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think the value has changed a little bit because we're kind of bombarded with imagery now everywhere. We live in a world that's really image rich.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of not so much made the value. I think people take photography a bit for granted nowadays. So we tend to take an image and we can upload it so quickly now. I think the value of quality photography has kind of stayed the same, if not increased now, because there is so much imagery available, and we are so used to consuming it in so many different ways now. So just like what you said, Zach, it's kind of previously, 50, 20 years ago, 100 years ago, even, you really had to seek out that imagery. Like, it wasn't everywhere. Now you kind of jump on your phone, you have image apps like Instagram, Facebook, advertising. If you surf the net, you walk out your front door and you have billboard signs. It's really high saturation. So I don't think it's changed in the bad way, but I think it has changed where good imagery is still really highly sought after.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well is that people take images for a purpose, or they take it for fun now, I guess. Whereas back in the day, because they were kind of limited number of roll of film, for example, they kind of had to be a bit more precious with what they were shooting, and a bit more cautious with what they were actually taking images of. Whereas today, you can just go through a gig or 2 gigs or 10 gigs or 100 gigs of images in the space of minutes now with some of the larger sensor cameras. So I personally feel that in some way it has been a sort of devaluation of images, just because there's just so much capability of being able to shoot such a large amount in such a short time. But in saying that, I think I agree with you, Rob. I think there's still that sort of high quality image sort of need in the market still, for whatever reason.
I kind of like it, liking it when I was young. You look at how your parents use a camera, for example, and they were kind of limited by 24 shots, right, or 36 shots, depending on the roll of film.
Yeah.
So when you went out somewhere, the shots were made to count. Do you know what I mean? You didn't burn through multiple rolls of film. You kind of made those shots to count. You went home, and they went in an album that came out when people came over, or at Christmas time, or at certain times of the year, which had significance. So nowadays, though, you have a camera on your phone. You can burn through gigs and gigs of photos. So I kind of see like the printed image now, though, is really highly valued, I feel. So I don't know. Do you do many prints, Zach?
Not anymore. My work mostly go on my website, social media, just because that's what's available now. That's cheaper, and you can reach more audience. Going back in the day, photography was meant for rich people. The first decades of photography was mainly for rich people because it's expensive. Films are expensive, but people back in the day, they don't care because they want to learn. So they would still shoot hundreds of photos. Maybe 90% of those are rubbish, and 10% are the only good ones because they're still learning that process. I think the value of photography is much higher nowadays, if not the same, because more people are making money, and there's more vanity into it. People spend like a minute taking photos, but then an hour editing the photo, making sure, like influencers, making sure they look good, making sure the product look nice. So I still do print my photos, my favorite ones, and I would just hang it on my wall. But it's not
something you necessarily commercially do on a regular basis.
No, even clients, like, they don't care about prints anymore unless they're publishing like a magazine. Even magazines like Time Magazine, they transition to online now. I haven't seen a Time Magazine, like physical magazine, in ages. I don't know if they still exist.
It's a very fair point.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of social media, how important do you think it is as a photographer? I mean, that kind of fits right into the niche of photography. For someone like yourself, Rob and Zach, what are your kind of ideas on social media? What are your thoughts as far as social media goes as a photographer or videographer?
For me, social media is very important. That's our most efficient and cheapest way to have our own gallery.
Yeah. Use as like as a sort of somewhere where your clients can go and see your images.
Yeah, like, you don't have to go to a physical gallery anymore to see someone's images. The professionals, 20, 30 years ago, they use a website now to look at works, especially at the moment with the pandemic. The rise of social media has gone off the roof.
Yeah. But what about an actual website? Because that's always a highly contested debate. Do you think that Instagram is more important than having a website? Or do you think they kind of go more hand in hand? Or what are your thoughts there, Zach?
I think they're both important. Website, personally, I use website for my professional work. I used to have my personal website just, to throw my everyday images there, but then I didn't see the point. I'd rather put them on Instagram where I can share it to my friends, to more people. Different platforms, different purpose.
Yeah.
I would say if you want to reach clients, website is great because you can have your details there, your best works, and then you can have your, say, Instagram, your social media for some behind the scenes. the work in progress. But if you're going to pitch something to the client, they won't spend 10 minutes looking at your Instagram, finding your best work. They'd rather go to a website where they can see your best 3 to 5 images, see if you're the right fit or what they need. So for me, they're both like equally important.
Yeah, I tend to agree, Zach. I think like kind of your social medias, your Instagram, for example, is more for like your everyday images. Like it's a constant stream of basically you're creating every day through there, or you're regularly posting. So you have the stories, you have reels, you have images. So that's a regular stream for channel of engagement for people. I think I agree with your website. It's 100% kind of your professional home where your business kind of lives. So, your very best portfolio images go there, your contact details and stuff like that. It's meant to be basically your business's online home, your presence online. Where Instagram is more, I feel like almost like a casual chat. So it's just that constant stream of creativity. I've actually separated my ones into like a personal Instagram and then an Instagram for my business as well. So I think that kind of very much, professional. And then I have, this other one over here that's working on its own as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely like that. I like that. I think definitely Instagram can be, like you said, to reach a wider audience. I think having more of a specific, here's exactly what we do, here's exactly what we charge, and here's exactly what we provide on a website is definitely important. But I think for me personally, like having an Instagram where you have a bit of a community around you, I guess that kind of leads into what you were saying, Rob, having a bit of stream of consciousness or a bit of engagement going on. That's kind of where I stand with Instagram for my own stuff. So yeah, I think it's definitely really good kind of have that sort of social media influence. So at least you're sort of talking with your people who follow you and that sort of thing. Definitely.
I think it's sorry, you guys.
Yeah, like Gary Vaynerchuk, king of social media, king of content. He said, "Don't treat your social media as your portfolio. Use it as a communication device to reach out to your audience."
Yes.
And that's why your website, which I believe, website where it's where your portfolio should be, your best work. You can still post your best work on Instagram. There's no problem with that, but you should communicate, post it behind the scenes, how you, your process, how you got into that final image or final video, like a walkthrough, so your audience, people can understand your creative process and steps that you took that took you there.
Yeah, I tend to 100% agree. I think that's the way. To me, social media is kind of like that everyday conversation. It's almost a good way of advertising as well. And you get you get work from social media, don't you, Zach? So for you, it's also a revenue stream, right? Working with influencers and stuff.
Yeah. I get probably 50% of my work. I get it from Instagram.
Is that right?
Facebook randomly, which is great, because I'm always active on, especially Instagram, because I'm a highly visual person, and I get lots of inspiration on Instagram from other creators.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I get request messages from people asking if I do this type of work, if I can help them, say, produce photos and videos for their fitness program for the gym. And then next week I'll get a corporate inquiry asking if I can do a testimonial video for their clients. So social media, it's like magic. It's full of wonders. That's why, because the reach on social media is just so broad. You don't know who's going to knock on your door.
Yeah,
I actually really like that. It's like a virtual door, right? It's you get that knock at that virtual door. I have to say your Instagram game and social media game, Zach, has always been on point. So that's one of the things I've noticed about your, following you for a long time now, knowing you for a while as well. Just the way you have developed your social media game is unbelievable, man. I think that speaks volumes. And just seeing, like, as a creative, I think the way you engage through it is how it should be done. So your strategy is perfect, man. It's really, really good.
Thanks, Rob.
It's all right. But I like the way you speak about it is just what you deliver is the spot on. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I can see what you say about how you interact with it, and that's what you deliver. Do you know what I mean? That's not just lip service. That's actually what you do with it. So I think that's really, really good.
Yeah, and people are interested to the creator, not just about your work, because most people care about the process, who the person is.
Yeah.
Person normal, right?
Well, I guess they're going to be working. They're going to be working with you, right? So they want to know if you and them are going to be compatible to work together. Because if you hire someone and they're like rubbish, or your personalities clash, then there's not going to be much future work, is there? There probably won't be much work done that session at all, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I heard as we've been in lockdown in Sydney, I've been watching a lot more YouTube recently, and there's a bunch of photographers overseas, and they all went on a tour together. But they do a lot of crossover, a lot of collaborations across each other's channels. And the thing I heard them say was that they felt like they knew each other before they even go on these trips. So because they watch each other's YouTube channel, they kind of know what they did last week. So the conversation is, oh, hey, how you been going? What have you been up to? Because they already know what they've been up to through their social media and through their YouTube channel. So I think that's just a really cool way for creatives to connect now. I think it's, like you said, it's not just about hiring Zach, but they buy into the Zach story as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, Zach, you said you do photo and video, right?
Yeah.
So do you see photography and video as being competing with each other, or do you see them offering each other an opportunity, or are they totally different animals altogether and exist in their own space?
I don't think they compete since the beginning. It's just two different art process, two different fields. And before, if you're a photographer, you're just a photographer. If you're a videographer, filmmaker, you're just a filmmaker. But nowadays, if you talk to someone, millennials, someone doing a creative multimedia degree from a college or university, most of them, they can do both photography and video because it's very important. And I guess this day and age, if you don't know how to do both photography and video, you're kind of weird. maybe 10, 20 years ago, that's cool. That's fine. If you're just a black and white photographer, that's cool. If you're just a filmmaker using, I don't know, film cameras, want to be Steven Spielberg with their Super 8, yeah, that's cool. But now, if you look at creators, let's talk about like Peter McKinnon. He's a great photographer. He's a great filmmaker. There's a guy called Danny Gewirtz. He's an amazing filmmaker and also photographer. And I think it's very common now that if you can shoot, I guess it's easier to take photos if you're a filmmaker than if you're a photographer and then you'll try to do video. It's video is just a different game because it's moving images. There's a lot of creative layers involved. There's audio, there's video, there's sound effects, there's special effects. Whereas with photography, it's just one flat still image.
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm a photographer, right? So I work on film and kind of progressed so long. And over the last year or so, I've started to kind of dabble more and more in video. Probably the last 18 months, 16 months, I've learned a little bit of video, not a great deal. I knew a bit about sound, so I could implement that from when I used to do music, but I was very much a still photographer. So when, I found in the market today to compete, you kind of really have to be across both or be able to pull a string to get both. Do you know what I mean? To me, they're kind of complementary now.
Yeah, I was going to say that, to be honest. I was going to say, I think photography and videography kind of complement each other really well, in that, generally speaking, when you're shooting video, you're most likely going to be shooting stills at some point anyway, right? Whether that be, whether that be on set or whether that be completely different occasion. But regardless, you're going to be owning a camera that is most likely going to have some sort of stills capability. So I think for me personally, they definitely really complement each other, because I'll use the camera to take stills and video. So, and then you can also use the video as well to create, the behind the scenes or the final shot or the making of shot. So yeah, I think definitely really complement each other more so now than ever. But I agree with you, Zach. It's it's definitely video and photography, two very separate ball games as far as the workflow goes.
Yeah, and what's happening at the moment, because the production size, it's getting smaller and smaller. Before, if you want to produce a quality video, you need to hire a production team, which
Yeah.
have 10, 15, 20, 50, maybe 100 people if you're producing movie, and every single one of them have just a specific
job.
If you're a director, if you're a cinematographer, if you have a behind the scenes still photographer, that's your main job. But now, because cameras are getting super high end, super
Relatively small.
it's small and it can do so much things, and people are learning to adapt, and also competition. Um, like businesses, they tend to hire a not super professional, or not the most expensive creator, as long as they can shoot photos and videos and maybe add music, edit music at the same time for social media needs. Yeah, it's just a different game now. It's so much easier, and it's kind of sad if you hear someone, "Oh, I don't know how to take photos or videos." I'm like, bro, there's YouTube.
It's true though, right?
Yeah, it's a good point. Very true. Very true.
I don't have money to go to university or to take, but you have Wi-Fi, right? Go on YouTube, go on Google.
100%.
Yeah, and most people I know, the one that are currently succeeding in their career as a creator, they're self-taught. Didn't have
Yeah.
money to college, to uni. Um, yeah, or they were doing like nursing or accounting, and then they fell in love with photography, and then they realized they can make the same amount of money, if not more. So they just hop into YouTube, Google, made some friends, and yeah, that's how they started.
Yeah, I really think it's interesting nowadays, actually, that a lot of people are picking up cameras or using a phone, for example. And it makes me wonder, because you see a lot of those courses coming out saying, we'll teach you how to use a camera or how to shoot movies or whatever it is. And I wonder who is taking those up, who is the target market for those, because so much of that stuff is available on YouTube. But yeah.
It's all about marketing as well, and the platform, the structure. Say, I think a good example is Full Time Filmmaker. Park Wolbeck.
Yeah.
To their YouTube, they offer like so many free, valuable content.
Yeah.
But then they only give you like first 10 minutes or 15 minutes of like a snippet. So if you want to learn more like, in depth, you need to sign up to.
It's like a gateway sort of thing, where it's like get 1% of it and get the 99% of it paid.
Right. And yeah, I think the target market for those platform is like completely amateurs or beginners who don't want to spend hundreds of hours on YouTube finding the best tutorial. They just want to
Mm,
go to one platform where they can see everything, they can learn everything they need
mm.
by paying how much, like 500, $800. I think that's how much it costs for like a lifetime subscription, which
Yeah, and
is
I suppose those people who already look are probably already looking at some sort of TAFE or university degree anyway, so it
yeah,
makes sense for them, I guess.
I think at that same stage, you can move through that content at your own pace as well. So I think
Yeah,
sometimes, your formal education tends to, I don't know, but when I was like, I've gone through the TAFE and stuff like that, that kind of way. So I found that really limited at times because it teaches you the rules. Like it teaches you, how to get the correct exposure, rule of thirds, all that really formal stuff that,
textbook stuff.
yeah, it teaches you how to take, like classically trained photographer, right? It follows the rules. You've got leading lines. It all goes this way. The colors are nice. This is what it should look like. And then from there, it kind of, if you're a rule breaker, you kind of don't pass those type of courses. Do you know what I mean? Because you kind of get squeezed into that box. Where YouTube and stuff lets you develop on your own, and lets you put your own kind of spin on it. So it all depends on what your purpose is, I think. But YouTube, I really feel is a really good avenue for those people, and they can be as creative as they want. Surely that at times there are those demands where you have to be that classically trained photographer or videographer. You have to know your rule of thirds and lighting ratios and all that stuff. But at the same token, there's also times as a creative you want to be totally free and free of constraint. Like
Yeah,
you might really like minimalist frame, like minimalist approach, and have square frames with like one single item as the center of attention, and everything's really nice and lots of negative space, and that's really really nice. However, there's no leading lines in that image. Do you know what I mean? So technically, that image might not work in the technical means, but it's a lovely image and it really works and sets your portfolio apart. So I definitely think YouTube is a really good option nowadays,
mm,
and it comes back down to those people who want to and are driven enough will find a way to learn and teach themselves and to progress, basically.
yeah, yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, YouTube's definitely a great resource.
What
yeah.
do you?
I went to uni. I had a degree in multimedia, and if I had a few people ask me if they should follow the same path I did. I would say 100% yes. If you have the time, you have the money, go for it. Because what you will learn going to college or university is the connection
Yeah,
and the foundation. You'll be taught by professionals. You guys in the
Yeah,
same room. If you have a question, you can ask them directly. You get your answer right away, and that's face to face learning is still the best learning. Yes,
mm,
YouTube is great. Um, Learning online is great, but then if you have any questions and you ask someone or you ask people online, you get hundreds of different answers.
that's true.
It gets
that's true.
overwhelming. It gets confusing. Maybe all of them, maybe 80% of them are correct, but then you still get confused. Like,
How
okay,
would
you're
you know?
correct, but then it's like creative journey is like there's so many, could be one destination, but there's so many ways you can do it.
Yeah,
um yeah, but uni, TAFE, college, it's a great foundation because you'll make friends and people that are in the industry. And I had my professors, my instructors hired me to do work while I was at uni because they like my work. And
that's good.
I said, yeah, cool, I'll do that. I didn't need to get paid, but if you guys gonna pay me, why not? That's gonna fund my next gear or pay my tuition fee. uh, but yeah,
I think
that's my take on that.
I think that's really important what you mentioned about formal education, where it does give you the avenue to make contacts in the industry, which you might be able to learn a craft from learning YouTube, and if you watch enough YouTube and sample widely, you can learn something. But what it doesn't teach you is how to make that connection in the industry with other people. And as a creative, I think that's a really big part of what we do, is we learn how to connect with people. And it's not so much, about, I think it's not so much about that kind of knowing the art and the craft, but it's also knowing about people and how people buy into you. I think that's a really huge part of it. And I think, like you said, Zach, face-to-face is always better because it actually teaches that human element, which I think sometimes as creatives that people sometimes lose.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, even if you're the most introvert person in the room, photography and videography, it's always communication.
100%.
You're always trying to say something, and being in a room where you're surrounded by real humans, not just people on Instagram, on YouTube. It helps you as a creator on how to connect with these humans, physically, by touch, verbally, face to face. For me, that's very important.
I agree 100%. You can't learn that off YouTube. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this episode, guys. Zach, mate, thank you so much for coming on. As always, guys, please check out Zach's stuff, his work. I'll link all his links and hashtags and ats on Instagram and YouTube and his business website in our comments and notes section for the podcast and also the YouTube.
What was your Instagram again, Zach?
Just Zach Alviz.
Zach Alviz. There you go. How do you spell that?
ZACALVIZ.
I like that.
Just put it down in the description.
Put it down the bottom.
Link to bio.
So I'll pop a bubble up or something. It'll probably be a square, to be honest. Look, thank you so much for coming on, mate. It really means a lot to have you on. Chris, as always, it's been a pleasure. Guys, make sure you give us a follow, subscribe, find us and download us on Spotify as well. Get behind the podcast. I understand as a YouTube, watching 3 people or 2 people talk constantly, it's not the best YouTube. It's a bit of a better concept for a podcast. So make sure you download that. It's pretty engaging. And as always,
and Amazon Prime.
Yep. Leave us a comment. Really, any questions? If you want to jump on and replace, take Zach's spot for coming weeks, by all means, jump in. But thank you so much, guys. Have a good one. Catch you next week. See you later. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.